Okay, here we are, another episode of Adventures in Real Estate, this time with Wes Racht.
Thank you.
A super stud broker here. On which team are you on?
The Fluellen Hoover team.
Fluellen
Marcus
Hoover.
and Millichap.
And how many deals does Fluellen team do a year?
So a year, we're just about 50 for the last 3 years year over year. This year we were on pace to do about 70, but COVID hit. But we're still going to do well over 50 this year.
50 deals. What kind of
Yes.
dollar volume is that?
So last year it was 560 million, so just about $500 million. And
Wow.
yeah, it's been a great year. Even in the midst of COVID, we kind of took those months to recalibrate some of the things that procedures we were doing, offering memorandums that we were putting out, and just refined our craft. But these next 3 months, it's going to be a push. And so we just have deal after deal coming out, and we're putting everything in escrow. So,
Wonderful. Well, you know, I better back up real quick.
Yes.
Because what we're actually going to talk about is our co-sponsorship program, of which Wes is one of about 5 people we're doing that with so far. And he found a property, and it's got a lot of hair on it, which is the only place you can find any opportunities right now.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of opportunity on that. So we're going to talk about that particular property.
Yep.
This is not a solicitation for investment. This is just talking about the deal and talking about that, because by the time this comes out, we'll probably already be fully funded anyway.
Yes.
In a deal that we're closing very soon.
Yep.
But I wanted to make sure to put that out there because it is a 506B. So we're not doing bulk advertising on that. So this is just going to our internal people, and it's not a solicitation. So just reminding everybody of that. But let's talk about your background real quick.
Yeah. So graduated from UNT, played football up there in 2011. Decided to give Texas a try from Los Angeles, something we share in common, I believe, or California.
Yeah.
And so stayed out here 2011, 2012, started working for a dental corporation, doing marketing and PR, advertising, just building up the practice. 2013, thought real estate flipping would be fun. I said, hey, I can pick up a hammer and paint some walls. I say, hey, if they can make money doing it, why can't I? So did my first flip. Actually, back up, we bought our first house in 2012, my wife and I. We bought it with the intention of moving into it. Go to notify our apartment complex, hey, we found a house. We thought they're going to be happy.
They're happy you're moving out? Really? Who would have thought?
They say, hey, great. 2 days later, we get a notice on the door. Here's $4,000 for penalties for breaking your lease. And we're like, okay. Called our broker at the time and said, hey, what do we do? And so he said, well, why don't you just try leasing it out? You have nothing to lose at this point. So sure enough, our first home, we've already sold the home, so the mortgage company can't come back now. But we put a tenant in there, and we're making $500 a month.
Wow.
And we put down $15,000. So do that cash on cash in your mind. Not bad for a first investment we fell into.
Oh, yeah.
Decided to get my license because we wanted to start flipping. I was just wearing brokers out, trying to run CMAs and all that, good stuff. And just fast forward, 2017, 2018, hundreds of deals under our belt, dozens of flips, dozens of investments, rental properties.
Wow.
Multiple years doing 30, 40 transactions a year. And so.
Wow. I actually hadn't realized you did that many flips.
It was there was a point where we were just doing cash out refis. We'd buy a house at auction. Can't use financing for that.
Right.
We'd go to one of the little banks, do a cash out refi, and go off to the next. People were foreclosing left and right. And so it was a lot of fun.
Wow, that is a lot of deals. So did you manage those yourself?
Yes. Yeah, we managed them all ourselves. I was managing them up to the point of joining Marcus and Millichap. So.
Wow, and how many do you have now?
Now only about 8. So we have a couple partnerships, but we're trying to liquidate those so we can get into multifamily.
Let's back up a step a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So you graduated college.
Yes.
Started working as a marketing person.
Yes.
Now, did you quit that job while you were doing these flips and rentals?
Yes and no. In between there was I had a partner. We started a healthcare business. And so I know it's off topic, but it was a chiropractic massage cryotherapy business, and it was amazing. We definitely filled a need in a little city called Forney, and then we opened up another location in Louisville, And so I kind of, used that. We were doing real estate and healthcare at the same time. So, but yes, I did leave the job because real estate was just consuming my time.
Well, let's look at these. Okay, so how old were you when you left your career there?
Yes.
How old were you?
So call it, 24? No, let's see, I'm 32. I have to kind of scale back.
High-end math here.
I know. I have to scale back. I count them by children. So I left. She's 6 years old now, so I was 26 when I left.
Okay, so you were 26, and you had enough rental income. How much rental income did you have at that point?
Oh boy, maybe a couple $1,000 in passive cash flow, maybe.
I mean, still a couple $1,000 at 26.
Yep.
I mean, that could pay most, if not all, your bills.
It did, and we were very frugal. My wife and I, we lived off of one of our paychecks. We just saved the other one for a good 18 months to 24 months.
See, but the big thing is this is a story about what most young people should be doing.
True.
They got in there and got involved in real estate when they were young, and every investor we have, they always say, I wish I would have got started when I was younger.
Oh, yeah.
Every single one of them, and you did that.
Yes.
And technically, you leapfrogged. You went from your career into single family, which is what most people should do to get that experience under your belt, and then move into commercial.
Yes.
Yeah, but you went into it on the brokerage side. And have you bought any apartments so far?
So I've done a passive deal with one of my clients. I really believed in the deal, 100%. And it's in Grand Prairie. It's 420 units. I just believed in it. I was the buyer's broker. And, when they said, hey, would you want to put money into it? I said, of course. Thank you guys. I believed in the deal. I wasn't trying to.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to invest with you.
I mean, it was just, I'm not just selling you the deal. I believe in the deal.
Right.
And as of today, it's been one of their best performing assets in their portfolio.
Wow.
And so I was just, it was, earlier this year we closed on it. So a great opportunity. And so that was my first true multifamily investment.
That is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of deals with Fluellen team, with Bard and Nick.
Yep.
I haven't closed anything with you yet.
We've been close. We were really close to that one in Saginaw.
Yeah.
Really close.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
There's always somebody who's willing to pay more and have a lower yield, but
yes.
But that happens. But so as a broker, you were shopping a property. You were looking at a property. Mm-hmm. And which property was that?
The one that we're acquiring, Village Oaks. So it was really interesting. Joey on our team had it listed. And Joey, great broker, he's on our 75 and under team. We have not complicated, but very structured team. Right. And so Joey's on the 75 and under team in DFW. A lot of people overlook those deals because they're not the 100 units, 150 units that everybody wants. But what was interesting about this is that this had the makings of being those kind of deals. But because there's fractured condo, the complexity of the HOA, the complexity of buying more units, people are overlooked.
Well, let's back up and explain that. What is a fractured condo deal?
So think of an apartment building, but instead of you owning every single piece of the property, you own your unit. You own your share. You own the property you live in or the unit that you lease out. So you don't own everything, but you own a portion of the property. And sometimes it's not a 1-for-1. Sometimes it's a heavier weighted. Maybe it's out of 100%, you own 1.1 share of it, or 0.9. So it's complicated. It's not simple like a multifamily deal or even a single family deal.
Right. Well, and it gets a little more complex. So that's if you own, for example, one deal. If you own
Correct.
one apartment and they're all 2-bedroom units, and there's 100 units, then yes, you own 1% of the whole. In a condo, you own basically the airspace in a condo, and then the HOA, the homeowners association, which you pay dues to, takes care of all the common area, the exterior, the lights, the water bill, the landscaping, the access gates, staffing to take care of the property, etc. So in Village Oaks, how many units did one person own that you put under contract?
So the initial contract was 53.
Out of a total of how many units?
84 units. So it was a good portion. You had over 50%, which was, you definitely want to be the majority. But
absolutely,
what was interesting is that even though they had the majority, they didn't have complete control over the property.
And why is that?
So, I mean, great question. And so, when you look into the HOA bylaws, and this is where kind of getting into the details of the deal, and if you want me to kind of step back, I will.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
This is for everybody's edification
Excellent.
because
Okay.
a fractured condo deal is not something many people have done.
Yes.
And it's something with a lot of hair on it, a lot of complexities. And so I want to explain that for two different reasons.
Okay.
One is I want you to be able to use this video to go ahead and tell people how to do it and to show your experience and what you went through
Yes.
and to explain the transaction. Because, for example, you're going to send this out to
Oh, a
to-
bunch of my investors.
a
Yes.
bunch of your investors and your partners, your friends.
Yes.
And that way they can see what they're investing in. So this is a way of getting all of the questions answered
Yes.
ahead of time. And we are recording this so that we can use this. So this isn't edited out.
Okay.
This is the whole conversation, just raw and unedited. And so that we can explain the deal so that they understand it.
Yeah.
Because the bottom line of this is we're looking at about a 2x return in 2 years.
Exactly.
So we're looking at a great return on a great investment. But like I said, there's a lot of hair. So I want them to understand
Okay.
what they would be investing in.
Yes. So I mean, just breaking down the details of where I saw the opportunity is when you looked at the way that this property was set up, and from my understanding, every other HOA is different. And so this one in particular, this one, the 53 units, they had control of 63% of the property. It
Okay.
wasn't a 1-for-1 because they owned the smaller units, a good portion of the smaller units. And so when I was looking at this, I said, well, in order to have HOA control, you just needed to buy 3-4 more. Like the numbers were just there. They were so close. And in my mind, I'm saying, why don't these owners do it? And so that's not my problem. That wasn't my issue. But I said, well, once I have HOA control, I effectively run this property like I'm an apartment owner. And I
Yep.
said, well, that's where the money's at. The money's at running this like an apartment.
Okay, so in that equation, just to recap what you just said, even though percentage-wise of the number of units we had control,
Yes.
but because they were smaller units, the control of the voting percentage is based on the square footage of the units.
Yes.
So a one-bedroom unit only has a fraction of what a
0.9,
three-bedroom
yeah.
would have. So you saw that a lot of people are looking at that, I don't have control of the HOA, I'm out.
Yes.
I have to control the HOA.
Yep.
But you saw opportunity saying it's that close, we just need a few more units.
Exactly.
Right?
And this is where I just, divine intervention is what you want to call it. But 53 we had under contract, and there were 3 on the market at that same time. And so I'm like, man, if this isn't a sign that this property is ready to go, I don't know what is. I mean, I was going back through the MLS, which I was lucky to have access to. My wife is still a broker, single family, so using her login, and I go back, and the last 3 years, maybe 1 property had sold at a time. There was 3 listed at the same time, and I said, okay, this has to be a sign.
It's all lining up.
Yeah, it was lining up. So I was like, listen, I'm either going to step in here and do it, or I'm not going to.
Right.
And so, sure enough, in parallel tracks and try to do it under the radar so the owner didn't see. I put the 53 under contract and put the other 3 under contract, and all I needed was 1 more to have that. And I was really frustrated because I had the 53 and then the 3, and I had 66.5% control. I needed 66.6 to have unilateral.
geez.
Yeah. So I was still in the middle of negotiating this last contract, but once I put it under contract, we'll have unilateral control, and we'll be able to write the HOA laws that fit us, that comply with the state of Texas, to encourage people to sell us their units.
Well, how are you going to encourage people to sell their units?
Well, this is where I had to call you, right? This is the point of the conversation where I said, well, using Yardi Matrix, which is something that we have access to at Marcus and Millichap. So talk about the tools that we had. I mean, Yardi Matrix, MLS, I had all the tools I needed.
Right.
I was going through the list, and fractured condos is a special tab inside Yardi. I said, well, who owns these? I don't know these people. Darwin. Darwin owns what? Two fractured condo deals? I said, I have to call them. And so I called you, and what does this sound like? Is this something, you would be interested in? And sure enough, I think we sat down, I shared the numbers with you, and the words, you asked me the question, what are the three, words in real estate? And I was like, location, location, location. You're like, no, lock it up.
Yep.
And so sure enough, locked it up, and now we're here, trying to get this thing closed in 30 days.
Well, just to give a little background on that, I've actually done a couple of fractured condo deals.
Yeah.
The very first one I did, I bought 82 units out of 330.
Oh my gosh.
Now, again, I was a minority owner. I had a lot of control of the board, and I also had what's called the declarant position.
Ah, okay.
And you're familiar with the declarant position?
I saw those in the HOA bylaws.
That the declarant is the one that when you do a condo conversion, they basically say, I'm taking this apartment and I'm declaring it condos, and they go through and do all of the documents and everything else to divide them all up into individual condos, and then they start selling them off individually.
Gotcha.
Well, back in the 80s, early 80s, when they did this, they sold off most of them. But then the crash hit in 86. And so one owner owned the last 82 units, and he just managed them as apartments. But he was still the declarant, so he had control of the board. And I went in there and I said, you know what? Let's go in there, let's play nice and try and work with the board and do that, because I could have come in there carrying the big stick and taking control. And I didn't. And I tried playing nice, and I got bit in the butt for it. So I realized, okay, that's not the way you do these fractured condo deals.
Yes.
Now, completely legal, completely ethical, completely right, but really a kind of almost a mean thing to do is the way that you do that. For example, we did another one that was a fractured condo deal, Woodwind Apartments, and it had extra land that we could build on and expand on. But an HOA, let me give a little history on that, is the Homeowners Association is a nonprofit organization. So they got to have a zero budget, and they basically look at all the expenses, see what those are, and then divide it off pro rata between all the units, and it comes up with a monthly HOA dues amount. Well, if you're in control of the HOA, you want low dues.
Yes.
So you keep dues low, but then the property just goes downhill and downhill and downhill and downhill and downhill.
Yes.
So what has happened at Village Oaks is the same thing. Dues are very low. And what we need to go in there and say, look, this property is falling apart. It is a disaster. And so we're going to go in there. We did a new budget based on what those operating costs should be. And it's going to almost double the HOA dues. So if you own a unit there and your dues are $180, and now we're going to go in there and now all of a sudden they're $360, first off, that's going to have people going, whoa, I can't pay those. Well, you've had the benefit of living here all this time with low dues. And then the real kicker on that is the stucco is practically falling off the walls. Wood rot, needs paint, needs tree trimming, needs landscaping. The driveway's in horrible condition. The access gates are in bad condition. They've got so many problems that the previous owners didn't put anything in there in CapEx because they were just bleeding it dry.
Just sucking the money out of it, every month.
Exactly. So now we're going to go in there and say, look, what does the property need? Realistically, we need to add value to this property. And the way you add value is by fixing it up. And so we've come in there, and what is our CapEx budget now on Village Oaks?
So our total CapEx budget is $1 million. Our CapEx for the common areas, exterior is about $750,000, depending on how you look at it. But it's a big portion. I mean, you're almost looking at $10,000 a unit, just in exterior CapEx.
So we're going to buy the property and go in there and notify all of the owners, by the way, that, according to the new budget, we're going to raise dues to cover everything we need to at $360 on average. And there's a $10,000 door special assessment. Okay. First off, the people that buy those units, yes, I feel bad for them, but the property's in bad shape. It needs to be done. So we're going to go through and say, here's your new dues and here's a special assessment. By the way, I understand that's a hardship for a lot of people. So we'll go ahead and give you a fair market price to just buy your unit.
Exactly.
And that should motivate everybody to sell their unit to us. And any other buyer that wants to buy it, they're going to say, wait a minute, I'm going to buy that, and I've got a $10,000 special assessment and these extra dues. It doesn't make sense as a rental, etc.
Exactly.
But we're going to be all in on this. Once we buy all of the units, do all of the repairs, we're budgeting paying how much per unit?
So right now we're under contract for 77, and then you add another 10,000. 87, 88 a door is what we're going to be under contract for, or close out effectively.
Okay.
Once all of our CapEx is in there. So under 90 a door, which is phenomenal for that area.
Okay.
There are deals trading 115, 120 a unit in that area. So the business plan on this one's very simple. It's come in there, be patient, and execute a business plan. And that was, you would talk about the hair on the deal. A lot of people can't afford to be patient. They want to get their yields. They want to get the cash on cash.
Right.
And that's why every deal is, you got to look at every deal differently. And this one is going to be, it's going to be a great deal, but we're going to have to be patient. We're not going to get the cash on cash every month, and that's okay.
But this is a value play. This is a true value play. There's no yield on it.
Yep.
However, our time frame is about 2 years.
Yes.
About a year to buy all of the units and get everything fixed up and then stabilized. Mm-hmm. And then we'll look at either selling or refinancing that.
Exactly.
Probably sell it.
Yes.
So that we can get a big CapEx for our big return on our investment for our partners.
Yep.
And so right now, what are we looking at? 1.7? 1.7x over 2 years, I think is what we're looking at?
1.79, 1.7, close to about a 37% return year over year. And which is, that's borderline triple what we're in the marketplace, what you see.
Exactly.
Most investors are looking for 12 to 15% return on their cash. So this is easily triple. Nothing's a home run, but this is, when you're viewing deals, what I see every day, no pro forma rents, no crazy rent bumps, no crazy assumptions. This was the opportunity I was looking for to jump into multifamily. I didn't want to waste the last 8 years of being a good steward, making good business decisions, just to jump in multifamily. And so I saw this as a very low risk and worst case scenario. I saw it as I'm buying this as an 8 cap deal in DFW. It has to work some way.
It has to work some way, exactly.
I can't screw it up too bad, my gosh, it's just, I just have to be patient. And that's really where it comes in.
Well, we're going to be all in once the dues, HOA, the special assessment, purchase price, everything. Our overall average for all the units we're looking at is how much per unit?
80 a door. And once everything's all said and done for acquisitions costs, and another, million. So about 88, 89 a door would be our total per unit price.
In rough numbers, okay.
Yes.
And so let's just say 90 a door.
Yeah.
And what are properties that are fixed up selling for in that submarket?
So we have some real-time data, which is always nice. There was a property that traded hands a few months ago as an assumption, which I say that because it's if you know anything about real estate, there's a lot of assumable deals right now, and they're trading for a lower price per door, but it's still traded for $112 a unit, which
on an assumption. You'd rather get new debt because you can get the new debt at 3%.
Yes.
And the assumptions are between 3.5 and 4.5.
Oh yeah.
In a lot of cases.
And this one was at 4.7% interest rate.
4.7 on an assumption at 112 a door.
Yes.
Wow. That would make ours worth 115, 118 a door.
Easily. And it's and I would say what's nice about ours is that we have another free and clear deal that's trading just north of Village Oaks for 120 a unit. And so we're within a very nice sweet spot. And what I would also mention is this is the kind of property where people get very aggressive. And the reason why is because when we sell this down the line, you're looking at someone who's going to need about $2 to $3 million to acquire this. And when you look at that investor group, there are a lot of people looking.
There's a lot of people looking at that.
Exactly. It's kind of that next step, and investment for most investors. Most people are looking to get out of single family. Most people, maybe they did a 20-unit deal or 30-unit deal, and so they want to go to that next step. And then what's really nice is that they're going to have a full-time manager, a full-time on-site person. So they're going to get to become a true business owner. And we're just doing all the hard work for them, converting those units and buying them for them.
And Joey had this on the market for how long did you have it on the market for?
A couple months. It was tough, and we were in the middle of COVID. It was Christmas. It just you couldn't. The timing was really beneficial for us.
But the big point on that is that people look at it and automatically throw it out because fractured condo deal. No, skip it.
Yes.
And so you have so few buyers for that type of thing, and so few buyers that have been through it that can do it.
Yes.
That's why it's at an 8 cap on the current numbers, just to try and get it sold.
Exactly.
And so what we do is we clean all that up, get it as a regular market deal.
Yes.
And because of all that work, we get to profit about $20,000 a door.
Yes.
On
cap rate compression.
And buying it at an 8 cap with hair on it and sell it at a 5 cap without any hair on it.
Cutting the hair off.
And just trim that hair and make that profit. Exactly.
I mean, so it's pretty simple when you think about it from just an outsider's point of view. It's the fundamentals are there. The execution, your business plan. If you've done it before, we already have that. We just need to follow it. And so that's really how everything kind of came together when analyzing the deal and just looking at the market.
Right. And so this is going to be a great deal. It's going to be a great one for you to kick off.
Yes.
Something with a lot of difficulties to work through.
Yep.
And we've also got financing lined up.
Yes.
And so
that was fun. You want me to go through that?
Go for it. Talk about the debt, because here's the thing. People are interested in knowing how you did it. Mm-hmm. So you went through and shopped the debt, and first off, what kind of bank, what kind of lender would do this, and what kind of terms did you get?
So it wasn't your conventional kind of lender. We had to go to a local bank here. And it was interesting is we probably had 12 different lenders available, and our mortgage broker put it out to every single one of them. A lot of people liked it. But they weren't comfortable with our CapEx. They didn't understand, why do you need so much? The deal makes a lot of sense. It makes money. Yep. We'll lend you the 75%. We'll lend you the 80% of value. We love it. Well, of course we love it too.
Yep.
It makes sense. I mean, it's a great performing property, but that's not our vision. And so trying to get a lender that saw our vision was very challenging. So it came down, and we're actually still in the middle of 2 lenders, but there's one lender who has stepped up. That was actually a previous lender on the property.
Oh, so they're familiar with it. Okay,
they're
good.
very, very familiar. And so they were very aggressive. They wanted to get back. They loved having the debt when they had the property. So there was kind of that level of comfort that let them get aggressive with it. Right. And so we ended up being able to obtain about 75% leverage, which is what we needed on the initial acquisition, and they funded them up to $1 million of CapEx.
So 75% purchase price of the purchase loan plus 100% of the CapEx.
Correct.
Well, you're doing a model just like a hard money lender on a house, right?
Oh yeah, big time. Yes, I mean that's exactly what you do. You go to the bank and you say, okay, well here's the down payment, and then you're going to escrow some funds for rehab, and that's what they're doing. But instead of us having to put up an additional 25%, they funded 100% of that. And so that's what's nice about. That's what made this deal work, where it wouldn't have if we would have had to receive less leverage, or if we would have had to bring more CapEx to the property. So what's something else is nice is the lender wants to do all the other units. So when we want to acquire more, they want to be our partner as well.
That is absolutely outstanding.
Yes.
Outstanding. So it's a great plan, and we should have that done in about a year.
Yeah.
That's about all it takes. Now there will be a couple holdouts there at the end. But then there's additional hammer that we can bring in to get all those. But once all that's done and converted back to apartments, we increase the value because of that cap rate compression on the unit types.
Yes.
And make our investors profit. Now that profit that we plugged in there at about 35% per year.
Yes.
And that's to the partners. Yes. That's separate from what our compensation as sponsors are.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all about making the partners money. So you
Yes.
go out there and make the partners money. They're thrilled at 35%
Oh,
a
yeah.
year. They're going to say, Wes, when can we do it again?
Exactly.
And so that's how the whole thing builds and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes.
Yep.
That's why we can raise, what, $3 million in 2 days on the last deal we did, or $11 million in 3
Oh,
weeks.
yeah.
So you're getting your.
I think I got one of your emails. I forget which deal it was, but you're already fully subscribed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not a small raise. That was a big raise, and here we are as the broker. We're like, what? This is awesome. Like, the deal's already subscribed. Everything's going, and so that's kudos to you and your platform,
Well, thank
your
you.
years of experience.
Well, thank you so much. Well, anything you want to add to this property? Anything that you like about it? You concerned about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the overall concern is, what you've mentioned is the holdouts. Who are going to be those people?
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously the biggest. What's the challenge? What's the elephant in the room? Is, well, what if? What do you do? And I think that's where you have to get very intentional and aggressive, and identify those people up front early.
Right.
Who are going to dig their heels in and say, come hell or high water, I'm not selling to you. So you have to identify who they are. And you have to be patient. And
But then also those same people, they still have to keep paying their dues,
Yes.
and they have to give a $10,000 special assessment.
yeah,
And especially in the level of those particular units, most of them are not going to be able to do that. So they're going to be
Exactly.
glad to have an offer to get out.
yeah, exactly. And so, and in worst case scenario, we've already spoken with several kind of lenders down the line. Say there's only a few left over. This will be able to be a Fannie Freddie loan for the next buyer, and that's really where the money's at.
Exactly.
Is putting a Fannie Freddie loan on here, putting some really good debt, and then just moving forward. And kind of the metric that they were looking at was 80% ownership, and so at closing, we will have 70%. So we just need to buy another 8 more units, and we'll have 80% ownership. So the tipping off point for us was really, getting the HOA control.
That's step one.
That was
Control
step
the
one.
HO.
And
Yep.
we've done that before we even own the property. And so that's what's nice. And the second part is getting that 80%. So that way when the time comes, after we've implemented our CapEx, we've bought more units, we can then offer this as an apartment building with a few remaining units that need to be purchased.
Yep.
But that's worst case scenario in my mind.
And we are waiting to finish up the PPM until we have the debt nailed down,
Yep.
so that we can have all the information in our private placement memorandum. And then they're going to call you.
Yes.
And so why don't we give your contact information
Yes.
also?
So my phone number is 972-975-0162. You can email my Gmail, not Marcus and Milichat. So it's Wes, W-E-S, Racht, R-A-C-H-T, @gmail.com.
That is awesome. I think that this is going to be a great success. I'm glad that you brought me on board to help you with that.
Well, it wouldn't have been possible. Couldn't have done it without you. All the back and forth, the strategies. You're still coming up with new strategies on what we can do. I guess we'll save those for later.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you so much for
Yes.
joining us in Adventures in Real Estate.
Yep.
And your adventure is great, and I'm glad to see, it's inspiring to see somebody that started out young and did
Yes.
that and actually built that up and got out there and hustled, which is what everybody at that age should be doing, is getting out there hustling, get involved in real estate early.
Yep.
Early and often. So,
Yes.
so that is awesome. So thank you so much for coming on by,
Darwin.
and appreciate it so much.
Likewise, thank you.
Bye.